이번에는 나라밖 소식입니다. 최근 몇 년 동안 쿠바교회는 정부의 통제와 경제적 어려움 속에서도 크게 성장해 왔습니다. 이러한 고난이 있었기에 오히려 교회는 성장의 열매를 얻을 수 있었다고 하는데요. 쿠바에서 전해온 소식입니다.
Before Castro, Cuba had one of the higher living standards in the world. After Castro, it is one of the world's poorest, most oppressed nations. On the streets of Havana Sunday, it was eerily quiet. In Miami, the city built by Cuban exiles, exuberance. During his decades in power, Fidel Castro was a source of suffering for millions, sending his opponents to prison or to their deaths, forcing Cubans into exile and separating families.
In recent years, Cuban churches have become known for incredible growth in the midst of poverty and an oppressive regime. Pastor Nestor is typical. He lives in a two-room apartment with his wife. His church meets in a classroom-sized room where the congregation overflows.
One of the things that has made us grow in faith has been the limitations and the difficulties.
In response to building restrictions, Cuban Baptists and Assemblies of God churches have seen house churches take off. And in the midst of scarce resources, a hunger for the gospel is evident across the island. It's why churches typically pack out on Sunday mornings.
People here don't care how comfortable they are. They could be exhausted from working all day and they will sit on a bag of rocks, a stitched up chair, or stand the whole service, and they're okay with that.
Under the presidency of Raul Castro, restrictions on churches have relaxed slightly. They can now more easily hold public events and evangelize. Cuban exile and humanitarian Teo Baboon says Fidel Castro's death could open up more opportunities, noting that the dictator crushed religious freedom. Castro was known for exiling believers and banning public displays of faith. His brother, Raul, is known more for his pragmatism and is considered less antagonistic towards the church.
We hope that the Cuban government feels freer to move more progressively towards religious freedoms.
But there's also fear that Raul Castro could roll back some of the new freedoms to prevent anyone from taking advantage of his brother's death. And there's concern that under the new Trump administration, travel to Cuba will tighten up again. That could slow down a growing partnership between U.S. and Cuban churches. Southern Baptist missions expert Jason Carlisle says improved U.S. relations with Cuba have encouraged missions.
Any leader who's excited, who's trying to find where to be involved in the world or how to take his church to an exciting piece of Christianity, they think of Cuba.
For now, Cuban pastors and U.S. mission leaders are cautious and yet optimistic, as the Cuban church has already proved that it can not only survive but flourish under tough conditions. Heather Sells, CBN News.